This is Strictly Ball Business. I'm your boy, Alec. This is Dalton on the left of me. Oh, wait a minute. He's below me. Are you above me? I don't even know anymore. We've changed the format once or twice. This is episode 31. We're so excited to talk about what the latest and greatest is in the National Basketball Association. Lately, we've come out of the All-Star break. Some teams have looked hot. Some teams have not. One of the players that we're going to talk about who's continued his surge is DeMar DeRozan and why we think he could be an MVP this year. We're also going to talk about another potential MVP, actually the reigning MVP's team in the Denver Nuggets, about whether they are going to have a potential championship this year. What are their odds to get to that point? We'll also talk about who would win in a LeBron versus Michael Jordan 1v1 match. It's a countless argument. People talk about who is better, but we're going to talk about who would win actually toe-to-toe if they had met on a basketball court. We'll also discuss the major free agents coming up this year. There are some guys out there we're excited to talk about where they could go, how much we think they might go for. And lastly, our last two topics will be about Markelle Fultz, his return, how he looked, and the Timberwolves update on their just resurgence this year, improvement on many fronts. We're going to dive into a few players and talk about why they are where they are right now. So first of all, we're talking about DeMar DeRozan for the Chicago Bulls. He is a potential MVP. This year, he's averaging 28 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 52% shooting and 35% from three, 60% true shooting. I mean, absolutely came out of nowhere in a lot of people's eyes for this level of performance. I mean, there are articles out there where people were saying this was the worst signing of the offseason. And boy, were they wrong.
Yeah, that was it. Honestly, I was thinking that this is probably one of the most interesting or best natural storylines in the NBA. You know, a lot of these are pushed narratives, like this player just doesn't like this player. It could be true, could not be. I mean, it's all these push narratives like Harden, Kyrie. You know, they have all these storylines going on. But honestly, DeMar, like they said, his career was over when he was with the Spurs. I mean, honestly, the criticism started when he was with the Raptors after they blew that lead. I mean, that 4-0, they had the best record in the East, and then they got swept by LeBron, pushed out like that. They're like, I don't know. He's obviously not that guy, is what they were saying. Got sent to
he was deemed Spurs. Not as a winning player at that point.
Right, yeah. And when he went to the Spurs, they didn't do anything. Like that was it, and everyone blamed DeMar. And now we're looking at it like you build a nice team around DeMar, and he's going to be an MVP type player. I mean, the Bulls, even though they have such success, and it's still the DeMar we know. Granted, he's shooting 36% from three, which is a lot. This is really good if you just look at it, but the volume's really low. And the Bulls are 25th in 3-pointers made, so they're still not a good shooting team. But then they're the 5th best offense in a league that has moved mainly towards 3-point shooting. And I think that's that's the DeMar effect. Like you can be effective. If you can do it effectively, you're still fine. You're still great.
Yeah. He's playing amazing in the mid-range, and other guys are having success in their spots as well. I mean, Zach Levine's a great mid-range shooter. Nikola Vucevic is a good post scorer. Like they have guys who can fill the roles really well, and DeMar DeRozan is really leading them and bringing them all together as like the veteran force on this team. And he's a solid defender at this point, and he's, I think, just elevated Zach Levine to another level as well. But like, it is crazy to see the level of success he's having in the mid-range in such a 3-point driven league. But this is a team that might end up with the first seed in the East, so you can't argue with it, man. Results matter.
Oh, yeah, and shout out Billy Donovan has done such a great job with this team. I mean, everyone was worried about their defense. Their defense is not good. I mean, it's not the best. I think it was 16, 19, somewhere around that range. But they're still able to play comparable basketball. I mean, they have the 5th best offense in the league for that reason. So they're really pushing it. they're a super dangerous team. They have 3 levels. You said it, post scoring. They got athletes. They got shooting all around, even though they might be 25th in 3-pointers made. I think that Zach Levine has missed a lot of time, and so has Lonzo, and those are their main shooters. And, of course, Vucevic is having a down year for shooting, but
so in a lot of ways, DeRozan's had to step up. I mean, a lot of this Bulls success can be attributed back to him. February, he just ended the month scoring 36 points per game and 6 rebounds on 58% shooting and 38% from 3. Like, this guy is ready for the long stretch, and I think in the playoffs we're going to see maybe even another level. This has been really fun.
Yeah, he's been awesome. I mean, look at what was that streak he just had of like 10 games of 30 or more at least 50%. Insane.
It was like 35 plus, and it was at over 50%. And in all but one of those games, he was actually over 60%.
That's insane. That's awesome.
Is even better than advertised.
So and this brings the argument of, is he most improved? Definitely. I mean, most MVP, most valuable player, definitely in top 3. For me, he is my MVP. You take him off the Bulls. Like, this is the biggest factor for me for when thinking about MVP is take DeRozan off the Bulls. How good are they?
They maybe don't make the playoffs. They didn't make it last year.
Exactly.
Lonzo's hurt right now. Caruso's hurt. Those were the 2 other big acquisitions this offseason.
And they've missed so much time. Yeah. Take Joel off the 76ers and look at them. I mean, currently they still have Harden. But they're still a good team, Harden. You take even Steph Curry off the Warriors. Granted, that's going to have a bigger effect, but you still got Clay, you still got Draymond.
I mean, those are bigger effects for sure. But
so he is the biggest impact, is my deal. And without him, like, he is the most valuable player. Without him, like, you can clearly see what he's done for this team and how valuable he is.
Yeah, I would say, the one other person that has like a similar argument is Jokic, because of the guys that have been out on his team. But I think between either of those guys, that's who I think should be MVP at this point. DeRozan, I think if he can get the Bulls to the number 1 seed or at least stay as a top 2 seed, I think that, might be a better argument than if the Nuggets end up as like the 6th or the 7th seed. But it all depends on the record too, right? I mean, how far apart are their team's records? Like, we'll see. I think right now the Jokic has the lead for me just because his numbers are out there. But this is a case for DeMar DeRozan, and I could definitely see him winning. These are some crazy numbers for him. He's having, honestly, his best season of his career, which is as crazy as it sounds.
That's insane. At what age? 32, 33. It's awesome. I think he definitely, if they make it to the 1st seed, I think for me, he's a lock. He's MVP because it is so tight. You're right. Jokic is doing great. I always have this thing. Like, I will not vote Joel Embiid while James Harden is his teammate, Like, yeah,
that's the thing. They just added Harden. Like, it's going to be hard for Embiid to win it now, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. And even, and Giannis, of course, Giannis is always in that conversation. I just think I have not seen
there's a little voter fatigue there.
Yeah, there's voter fatigue, and also just the team as a whole. I think you've just seen, like, the drive has taken away that they ramped up from last year and the year before. It's kind of just taken away, like they won their championship. I don't think they're going to make it, although I love them to. I just haven't seen the excitement out of them.
Well, just because they're coasting in the regular season doesn't mean they're not going to, succeed in the postseason. But in terms of Giannis potentially winning MVP, he's still balling, having an amazing season. So,
I'm just saying, like, all that
argument.
The regular season is all for, like, driving that momentum. And if I just haven't gained that momentum with the Bucks, and if you want to coast through the regular season, you lose that momentum. That's just part of it, which no argument there. I mean, like, Giannis is always great, always an MVP candidate for me. But for this year, DeMar, what he's done for those Bulls, that's it for me.
Yeah, no, I think DeMar needs to win this award. I think Giannis in general is going to be kind of like the next LeBron in terms of face of the league, and like he's always going to have great seasons. So, people are going to be like, well, he could be the MVP, but there's this other guy who had a great season who's never done it before. And it's like, DeMar DeRozan, who knows if he's going to have another season like this? Like, I want him to get his flowers for this.
Yeah, and it's well deserved. You could make an argument that he's not a good 3-point shooter and his defense is all right.
Yeah,
but still,
but
he's
still,
done.
I mean, he's worked hard to improve those areas.
Yeah,
a lot.
it clearly hadn't mattered.
Yeah, and at this point too, like he's at minimum going to get first team All NBA. So I mean, I'm happy for him on that, but he's got to be at least a top 3 MVP candidate, or it's a crime.
Of course, yeah, I'm with you there.
Let's move on. We're talking about the Denver Nuggets, their potential championship odds here in the playoffs. What are they going to look like as a team? They just sent Michael Porter Jr. back to the G League for a rehab stint. So that is phenomenal news. They also have Jamal Murray potentially coming back soon, maybe for a playoff run. So that would be great. Things seem to be coming together for them. They're only 2.5 games behind the 4th seed in the West. And, they continue to win. So what do you think about them, man?
Well, so here's that Jokic effect. We were talking about Jokic earlier. Always going to be an MVP type player, but his play set, this is what it does. Without MPJ and Jamal Murray, which is their first and third scoring option, by the way, in a healthy lineup. Yeah. So they're the 8th best offense without those two. 2nd best in assist percentage. That's of their offense, how much of it is assisted. 1st in defensive rebounding. A lot of that's from Aaron Gordon as well. And then that's insane. So when you add them, especially Jamal Murray, they're 19th in pace. I can only see their pace going up from there, and it's a dangerous team with that. All that shooting that's added from MPJ and Murray. Granted, MPJ was struggling before. That all gets added. It'll only be better from here. Once they're, I don't know about this year, but next year, assuming they're all fully healthy and they have their big 3 / very perfect role. Aaron Gordon's the perfect role player to fit all 3 of them together. Honestly, he's kind of the glue that makes sense. I think
we're talking about this year though, my man. And they are a contender. And I think so because they're 11-4 in their last 15 games, even without those guys, and they're going to get them back. They could potentially make a run here. I think you're definitely underselling them by pushing them a year out. I think, the DeMarcus Cousins era, by the way, who they just added 10-0. So I don't know, when you get a guy like Murray back, you're going to be able to send Monte Morris to the bench, and he's, arguably the best backup point guard in the league, one of them at least. And you get him alongside DeMarcus Cousins and alongside Bones Highland. You got a solid bench over there. It's a deep team. And, they were built to withstand these injuries, and they're just getting ready to bring these guys back to be in full force. And Nikola Jokic, like you said, I mean, he's been phenomenal this year. That second place in the league in terms of assist percentage, that's a lot because of him. He had an insane pass the other day over his head, in between 2 defenders. I think he is the number one reason that they could win a championship, regardless of who else is around him. I mean, they gave who was it? The Mavericks last year they played a run for their money, or was it? No, it was the Clippers. Yeah, they gave the Clippers a run for their money.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, Jokic is always going to put him in that conversation. I just don't think they can do it this year because MPJ was having issues before he was injured. I'm not going to assume he's 100% when he comes back. Same thing for Jamal Murray. Granted, it's going to add a lot more. That Jamal Murray Jokic 2-man game that they played was so nice. And when they come back, it takes so much pressure off of Jokic. They're definitely going to go further. I think at peak, I think they can make the conference finals. I think if the matchups align right, I think they can get that far. I think if they meet the Suns, that's a no-go. I think Warriors,
I don't think that's a no-go. With anyone.
I mean, they can compete. The Jazz, I think that is the best team they can upset.
I mean, I think they can compete with anyone. Who knows? The Phoenix Suns are really good this year, obviously. I think that's the one team everyone's oh, we want to avoid them. Well, obviously you want to avoid them. But you're gonna have to face them at some point. The Warriors are totally beatable. They just lost to the Wolves the other night. Granted, they didn't have Draymond or Clay,
Right.
or Wiseman, who hasn't played all year. But so they're missing a few guys too. But everybody's dealing with injuries. Nuggets are dealing with injuries. Who we're talking about? Like, I think the Nuggets at full force, like, they definitely have a championship potential team. A couple years ago, when they were younger, I thought they had the potential. Now, bringing back Murray, if he's available, he's just going to be even hungrier. We got Michael Porter Jr., who's more seasoned after his time in the playoffs last year, and Nikola Jokic is ready. He's hungry. I mean, you think he doesn't give a shit about MVP? Like, I remember they showed the video when he got awarded last year. He was just like, "Oh, thank you." But he's such a humble guy. He doesn't give a shit about that. He wants the championship.
Right. I mean,
this is the year.
But they're not fully. They're not going to be there, even if when MPJ comes back on time, or if Murray comes back before the playoffs. Like, they're not going to be 100%, which is why I this year I'm saying they can't do it. I don't think they will. I think, especially in the playoffs, if MPJ's not on the floor, if Murray's not on the floor, they've showed last year that you can crowd Jokic and try and ask guys like Will Barton to beat you. Ask guys like Aaron Gordon, be like, all right, fine, take it out of Jokic's hands, make them beat us. And Barton's good for a hot game and every once in a while, but he's not a scoring option. So this year I think they're more guardable. The defenses can easily align to them, but when all three of them are going to be healthy next year, I think that's definitely a contender, because then you can't just leave one guy or ask one guy to miss, and just changes the whole defensive scheme. Even them being on the floor, however, you have a point when they're all there. Like, even 100% or not, they still attract defense. However, it's just whether they can hit those shots, and I don't know if they're going to be able to hit all those hard shots they did, especially Jamal Murray. What was it? The bubble Jamal Murray was unbeatable. I don't know if he.
Oh yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah. But he showed also he's very much like Chris Middleton. In fact, like, he'll have one series where he's scorching hot, best player on the court, but then the next series he's close to just a non-factor. Maybe not a non-factor, but he's volume.
I mean,
not as much
inconsistency from a 22-year-old, 23-year-old at the time, whatever he was. I don't think is like the worst thing to be seeing. I think it's awesome to be seeing the spurts that he did give you, because it's a great sign of, what he may be able to give in the future more consistently. I think it's just like, knocking a guy for that at such a young age is kind of boggling to me sometimes, because like they've only got, they haven't even been playing for that long in the league, at least.
Yeah, but I'm not going to make the assumption that they're just going to be better until they are better. So I'm going to take them at the last time he played. Oh, I will not be surprised if he comes out and he reaches the potential we thought he would, or like he keeps up that consistency. I'll be like, great. However, from what I've seen, he hasn't had that consistency.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it sucks that he tore his ACL, because like we haven't seen the potential quite flourish the way we want to now. There's a lot of growth that we're missing out on here, but I think, there's other guys that have had a torn ACL that young too and still developed really well afterwards, like a Zach Levine. Other guys were really good before their ACL tear and were still good afterwards, like Kobe Bryant. And I think, Jamal Murray is a great shooter, and that, it translates well. I think that's only going to get better. And he's just got kind of that it factor that a lot of other guys don't have. So I'm excited to see how he improves. And I think he's definitely like a 23 point per game type of guy potentially. And once you get that consistently next to Jokic, that'll be awesome. And, a lot of people even consider MPJ to be better than Murray. So I think, yes, really solid big three here.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think MPJ certainly has the potential to be better than Murray. But I think I'd say Cinderella Dream is their conference finals, but I think I can see them getting bounced in the first round, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, we'll see. But, anything can happen. We got 19 games left in the season, 20 games for some people. So we're going to see how it goes. and see where they land here. Like I said, they are currently in the 6th seed there, but they're only 2.5 games out of the 4th seed. So we'll see where they end up. Maybe if they make a surge, they finish top half. Perception from some people will be a little different.
Yeah.
Next up, we're talking about major free agents heading into this offseason. It's not a great star-studded list, maybe in terms of guys that have gotten all-star nods over their career, but it does have some solid role players and some guys that are definitely going to get overpaid as well. We're looking at a couple of young guys here. I think how we should do this segment is I'll name off some guys, and I want you to like just immediately rattle off what team you think they're going to sign with and how much money and how many years they're going to get.
Okay. I like that.
So
let's see.
So let's go. DeAndre Ayton, restricted free agent, currently Phoenix Sun.
DeAndre Ayton's going to sign not a max, but close to. I think he's going to sign like a 4-year, $30 million a year with the Sun. He's going to re-sign with the Suns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like the success they've had this year, you can still see such a huge part of it. And like the reason they need to pay him is because of the games against like the Jazz and the Bucks and, you know, stuff like that. Like you need Ayton to defend guys like Giannis and Gobert and whatnot.
Yeah. And have an inside presence as well as he is. I mean, Booker's great. Bridges is great. Chris is great, but to have such a nice interior offense built around his game, that's very much needed. And you can't ask that out of JaVale McGee or Frank the Tank or any of those players.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a beast. Like he'll go like, 2 possessions in a row where he'll get a block immediately down the next end. He'll have a nice pick and roll for an alley-oop, or he'll get like an offensive rebound for a putback dunk. Like he's consistently there. Like he's always making plays.
Yeah, definitely.
Next guy, TJ Warren. Where is he going to sign? He's currently an Indiana Pacer.
TJ Warren is going to sign a $12 million contract for 2 years with I feel like it's either he's going to sign So it's either he's going to sign a $12 million contract, like a higher mid-level contract for a team for 2 years, like the Sacramento Kings, or he's going to get like $25 million from a shitty team like the Magic or the Pistons, because they're the ones with all the cap space. Just to make money, and the Magic and Pistons will just do it. I can see the Magic doing it just because they're like, we have money, and they do this all the time. Granted, I hope they change, but they're just like, oh, we'll pay him. Fuck it.
Yeah, just because they're like, why not? We're not going to spend it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you end up with bad contracts.
Indeed. But I can see him going to a team like the Kings. I'm interested in his fit in the Hornets. However, I think the Hornets have really crowded front court, and I think they're going to be signing Miles Bridges.
Yeah, I think TJ Warren probably makes a lot of sense on the Knicks.
Yep.
They kind of need some more scoring over there. Guy on the perimeter. I think that could help them out a lot.
Yeah, he fits their need for giving large contracts to players who are good but not good enough.
Yeah, he's right in that tier of guys they give contracts to.
Right.
Next guy, probably the best player outside of DeAndre Ayton, definitely the best unrestricted player, Zach Levine.
I think Levine's going to ultimately sign with the Bulls again after all the success. How can he walk away? However, I do think I don't think he's not considering other teams. And I think there's a lot of sign and trade potential. Especially, I mean, the Lakers are always in this conversation. I doubt they could put anything together.
There's no way they could pull that off.
Yeah, there's no
way.
Rockets, no. Wizards.
I think like maybe the Hawks or the Grizzlies are the only options I could think of that can make sense because they actually have something they could give back. But I think ultimately, after all the success this year, how could you leave the Bulls? I know like there was definitely some passive aggressiveness he's been pointing out in the media before by him thinking he didn't get his extension sooner, because they weren't offering him the max. But I think he definitely should get the max from them, because like if they're not going to give it to him, he's just going to go get it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be stupid not to. I mean, they can,
Super
and the
dumb.
Bulls, they have all this talent with them. Whether it's enough or not, we'll see in the playoffs and whatever they need.
Yeah,
to
but their
add. It's
window's
not
open.
star power. Yeah, they're not missing star power, so they got to toss them whatever money. It's just if
This
you're filling,
yeah. This is their window. They have to go for it. You get a guy like Zach Levine in the building, you got to keep him there. He's only gotten better over his years there. Like, sure, he's not a good defender, but offensively, he continues to transcend. And we've seen with many players, like, you don't have to be a great defender.
Yeah, I mean, he's turned it under Billy Donovan. He's turned into maybe not the smartest team defender, but he's turned out to be a decent on-ball defender, actually, when he has the motivation to win and it's all there. So it's not like his defense is a complete liability. He's still an on-ball. Still, you want to have those elite defenders like Alex Caruso, like Lonzo Ball on that team, and they do. So why would you want to leave that? You have anything you need.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would consider him more the face of the team than DeMar, just because he's been there longer. But right now they're like a two-headed dragon. So I think it's sick.
Three-headed dragon and Vucevic finally gets back together.
Yeah, that's true. Next guy, Jalen Brunson, is unrestricted. Currently a Dallas Maverick. What do you think?
I think if anybody has the potential to change teams, it's Jalen Brunson. And I can see him going to a place like the Knicks, where the Knicks are going to toss any money towards him. They're like, you know what? He raises our ceiling just a little bit. Here's all the money. And I can see the Mavs being like, oh, well, we lost him.
It'd be such
should have gave him that extension. Yeah.
It'd be such a shame. I feel like the Mavericks should be trying to keep him. Especially like, why lose him for nothing? Like, you guys could have traded him during the season.
Right. No, yeah, that's right. That's 100% right. However, I feel like the Knicks are willing to pay him more than the Mavs will be. And
Maybe.
that might be the downfall. We'll see. I don't, but I also don't like his fit on the Mavs. I do think he's a great player. I think he's awesome. But I like watching him run the offense, and playing next to Luka, he's shown he's less effective because he's a really nice playmaker.
Yeah,
so
I'm guessing
really nice.
Like he probably wants to go to a new team to open up his game more. Like, I'm sure he enjoys being around Luka and the great talent, but he's just going to always be in his shadow there. Whereas if he goes somewhere else where they need a primary ball handler, like, he can really fill a role and become maybe a better player even.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a sign and trade in the works. I think this might be the very possible or biggest sign and trade. I think the Wizards would love to have him. I mean, make another trade with the Mavs. The Wizards would love to have him. Obviously, I mentioned the Knicks. They'd like to have him. There's a lot of teams.
Yep, you mentioned the Knicks.
Obviously, the Lakers will do anything for him.
Yeah, Lakers ain't getting anyone.
Right.
They trapped. But Portland's been trying to free up some cap space. They do have Dame Lillard, so maybe that doesn't make a ton of sense. But I don't know. Maybe the Clippers, if they want to do a sign and trade.
Clippers, yeah. I think the 76ers would love to have him.
I think they would
obviously
too.
Harden would like to have a guy. Harden loves having a guy that Harden doesn't like playing point guard.
Yeah.
So
do you think like Mavericks would make it happen to bring back Tobias Harris?
Possibly Tobias Harris, or maybe I think they'd be very interested in Matisse Thybulle and maybe like Shake Milton or something like that. I think you could put together something like that.
Yeah, Thybulle would be great.
But I doubt, maybe now that I'm thinking about Tyrese Maxey, I think the 76ers are pretty bought into him. They like him a lot, so maybe not there.
Yeah, they're not trading him. No, there's no way. He's had a great season. But let's talk about free agents here. Anthony Simons, restricted free agent. Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah. Portland, he's staying in Portland. I mean, Portland would be stupid. They'd have to be the worst franchise in the league to trade away McCollum for him and then not sign him on money. I think they're definitely going to sign him. He does his free agency actually plus Nurkic opens up some pretty big flexibility because they can play with. They have about 15 to 20 million in cap that's going to be freed up, and if they wait to sign him until after they sign someone else, they can sign him off bird rights. So they've given him that cap so that it opens up where they can sign a guy. That's assuming they don't re-sign Nurkic, by the way. So they can go out and they can sign like a TJ Warren. They can go out and get him, or they can get a couple of guys like Harrell or whatever. They can pay them and then sign him after. So that I no doubt they're going to go ahead and sign him with the money. But I think they're going to be waiting on it. It's going to be later on in the free agency so they can use his bird rights.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for sure he ends up back with the Blazers. Like they traded away CJ McCollum to free up playing time for him, and he's looked great in those opportunities. So I don't see him going anywhere. Right. Another guy I don't see going anywhere, but want to bring him up regardless. Miles Bridges, restricted free agent for the Hornets. I think like the only way he potentially leaves is if another team throws a max at him and the Hornets decides that they don't want to match that, but maybe they do match a max.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to it because look at a team like the Pistons, right? You see a guy like Miles, and you have pieces in there like Jeremy Grant. You have pieces in there like Cade Cunningham. They're going to have a good pick this year. Do they pull the trigger and try to pull in a guy like Miles? Do they offer him the max and say, you know what, we can do it? And they're like, with this draft pick, depends who they draft. Say they draft a Paolo, or maybe a Chet. Obviously, I think is their perfect. Then that's a pretty decent team. That'd be great
noise.
So and then it comes down.
Yeah, have a good core to be for the future. I mean, Cade already looks fantastic, and Miles Bridges. I mean, he would fit really great with that team. I think he makes a lot of sense on the Kings if they found a way to free up money. And like have him as like a three-headed monster with Fox and Sabonis. I feel like that'd be a decent big three.
That would be nice. I could see the Rockets obviously reaching for him. I think he would be awesome on the Rockets too. I mean, he'd have shooters around him. KPJ with Jalen Green. I think it wouldn't be the worst fit, but the Rockets are the type to want exciting star power like him, like where he's super fun to watch. So I could see them try to bring him in. But I think it's just really dependent on how much he ends up going for, Yeah.
Like I think like 4 years, 115 million is what I see him landing at. But do you see someone maybe offering more than that?
Yeah, I can see him. I can see him getting offered 30 from someone like the Knicks or the Pistons. Like it's that small market tax for the Pistons if they want to get something. So I can see. I think it ultimately comes down. I think the money will be there for him. I think it ultimately comes down to whether the Hornets match it or not, and that might be I think it's like to us, like he's obviously a good talent, but I think it's going to be a tough decision for the Hornets because they're like, if they lock him in, then suddenly the only way they get rid of him is trading him, and they might be some free agents down the road. It's a tough commitment. So I think it comes down to the Hornets.
Right. No, it's tough giving a max to a guy who's not quite worth the max, but or slightly less than the max, whatever he ends up wanting. But I'm guessing I'm guessing he wants the maximum amount of money he can get.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? I'm sure he would.
That's probably what you're gunning for. So we'll see where that ends up. Another restricted free agent I want to talk about, Colin Sexton, currently on injured reserve for this whole season. So that's kind of an interesting one.
Didn't he sign I thought he signed a small contract or something. Hold on.
I thought he had, but it seems that maybe they were only in discussions. I don't think it ever got signed. And then, he got hurt. So
yeah,
kind of for him. I think they had offered him like 4 years, 100 million, but he wanted more.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, he's a guy, if I were the Mavs, I'd go after, I think he'd be a nice fit next to Luka. He's obviously not the lead ball handler, but he's a very good off ball type player. I mean,
great scorer.
Yeah, he can do it on his own too. I think he's worth going after. for them.
Yeah, I think
Fourth warning.
first off, and first most, or how the hell that saying goes. Do the Cavs want to keep him?
I don't think so. I think the Cavs are going to kind of shop him around in a sign and trade or something like that. I mean, sign and trades are always going to happen now. They're going to be a huge thing. So I think they're going to be shopping around. He's shown not to be a good fit, and I think they've taken off without him, and they're looking to fill something more complimentary rather than what he offers the team.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily do a sign and trade with him if he, signs with someone else that has like no room on their team. Like he would make sense on a lot of teams that need a scoring point guard. Like I thought like for sure that was going to be the guy that would make the most sense for the Sixers. Obviously they have James Harden now, so I don't really see that happening. But I don't know. There's got to be another team out there. I just can't even think of one that needs like
I can see the Spurs throwing out a bunch of assets to get him. I think he'd be pretty nice. I mean, at the very least, be interested. Him and DeJounte Murray, how well they would do, and I think they could. I don't know. They have guys. They have McDermott.
I think he'd be good on the Heat. I just like wonder what they could give up for him.
I don't think the Heat would be chasing him. I think the Heat like their team, and I don't think he fits what they would want. He's certainly if this was 2 years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah, the Heat would love a dog like that. But I don't think he fits their timeline. I think he's like he could go. I see him going to a rebuilding team. Not that he needs to rebuild, just that he's young, but I think he still needs to fall into his role a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get that. Like maybe I don't know. It seems like a lot of the young teams have guards, though, is the problem.
Right.
Like I keep thinking like Oklahoma City has guards. Yeah, Orlando Magic has guards.
Definitely set.
Minnesota Timberwolves, they have guards.
Well, they're
not really rebuilding anymore, but
the guards Timberwolves could probably do for honestly, if I were the Timberwolves, depending upon what you give up for Sexton, I would take Sexton over Malik in a heartbeat. I think Malik would be more
Malik's our bench player. We're going to have Colin Sexton come off the bench.
Oh, you could have him as 6-man. I mean, I'm not convinced he's a starting. I'm not convinced he's a starter on a championship team. That's the only thing.
All right. Moving on from Colin Sexton. Dalton's been doing drugs. These guys have player options. I figured we'd touch on them.
Sure.
John Wall, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving. All these guys are opting into these and probably signing extensions with their current teams, right? The only exception is Kyrie. Like he'll take the player option, but we don't know if they're going to offer him an extension.
Yeah, I think there's not enough flexibility in people's caps for Beal to say, I want to go unrestricted. I don't see anything that would interest him. Like none of the teams with cap space, which are the Pistons, Magic, Pacers, and Spurs, none of them interest. If I were Bradley Beal, interest me. I'd want to win now. So I think he's definitely signing an extension. Obviously, yeah, Harden and Irving. I think Westbrook will accept his player for the same reasons. I don't think there's any place that he would want to go. I think he's accepting his player option.
There's no way anywhere else would pay him nearly as much either. I mean, it's like $44 million.
Yeah, I think the Rockets are going to beg John Wall not to take up his extension, and I think he will, and then he's going to get bought out halfway through the year.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go. But, I mean, I think maybe what they're trying to gun for in Houston is like, hey, John, you see, like, we didn't play it all this year, and now people are forgetting about you. Like, if we bought you out and, like, or if you didn't pick up your option, like, you could go somewhere else and get playing time. But if you go into your option and keep playing, like you're going to continue to not play for us and you're going to continue to be irrelevant and no one's going to want you. Like This is a decent argument. So John Wall's got a choice. Like, okay, do I want to go play for a team now after the Rockets screwed me over? Do I want to go redeem myself, play basketball? Because we know he asked the Rockets to start playing again this year because he just wants to play ball.
Yeah.
Does he make the choice between wanting to play ball or $44 million?
For me, it's $44 million. But I mean, I like basketball and everything, but $44 million.
But if you've already made 200 million,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think
he's made a lot of money already.
Yeah, I think it'll.
But that's a lot of money too.
I think it'll be a little bit of a surprise if he doesn't take it for me. I think, but I will be like,
it would be a shock. But it would be like, all right, fuck yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I want to see Westbrook not take it just because he's like so upset at like his experience in LA. That'd be fun.
Yeah. That I think that would be a nice shakeup, and I think the Lakers are hoping he doesn't do it either because that opens up the Lakers to get someone
praying.
like any of these guys, even Ricky Rubio, even though he's going to be injured probably half the year next year. I think they'd love to have him rather. I mean,
maybe like a Dennis Schroeder.
yeah. I think this is going to be a very uneventful free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not a great one. I mean, these were the main names. Were there any others you thought of?
None that's going to be a shakeup. I think Covington's I can talk about when it comes to the Timberwolves. I think he's definitely someone they should go after. I think Kyle Anderson will be interesting. Where I'm interested where he'll go because he can really fit anywhere. And
I think somewhere. Role players like that, they'll probably get bigger contracts than we expect. Like, in the teens of millions of dollars or whatever. Like Isaiah Hartenstein has had a really improved season. He's a free agent. Like he might get into the tens of millions per year just for the year he's had.
And Harrell's out there too. He might fit somewhere. He's got a role.
Yeah, I like Harrell. I was surprised to see how small of assets in quality it took to bring him to Charlotte. Maybe they re-sign him, maybe go somewhere else. I think, there's some decent role player options like that. But the days of like stars in free agency just isn't the era that we're in. That's just not happening. Like that used to happen a ton when Kevin Durant made it to free agency. LaMarcus Aldridge, he made it to free agency. It was a big deal that year. Dwight Howard one year, it used to be a big deal. They would go around, get courted by different teams, and you'd be like, oh, he's going to make his decision any day now. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, okay, they make their decisions immediately, and it's stars don't make it there because they reached out their extensions because they're like, oh, I can just get the massive extension of unfathomable money, and then I'll just request a trade in a year or two.
Yeah, they get their cake and they eat it too nowadays, but
Exactly. I think the next collective bargaining agreement, they're going to shake things up a little bit because while it's great that players have power, sometimes they have a little bit too much power. They're just like, creating these super teams and like locking themselves into these extensions and then requesting trades, which I guess like in the long run, it's not that bad for the rebuilding team because like they trade them away and they get a bunch of assets anyways. But, it's still frustrating because it's like you get guys like James Harden, who was bought in at Houston and then, signs an extension. And then he's like, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. And he just stops trying. And it's like the fans that you had built up over the years, now they're turning on you and that type of shit. And it just sucks to watch sometimes.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right, let's move on. Markelle Fultz is back, baby. Your Orlando Magic. He played 16 minutes in his debut, shot 5 of 7, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 10 points, 6 assists, 2 rebounds, 1 turnover. Looked great and, athletic as ever.
Yeah. He looked like he just picked up the ball without skipping a beat. Honestly, he looked like the same Markelle. Very effective. For me, the biggest standout was he's playing like a veteran. He looks like the veteran on the floor when he's with them, even though he's only 24 years old. But he's with these guys and they're looking up to him. And I think that's really going to help out his confidence. I think it's only going to make him a better player. I think once he was on the floor, you really saw, you're like, oh, like he really is a genius level, like passer or facilitator. And like, you've noticed that, like, oh, with him gone and having Cole or Suggs run the offense, this is more crisp. This is like veteran like. So I think that was awesome to see.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't take a 3-point shot. I don't know how much he will, but one guy that I think is certainly going to benefit from it is my guy Franz. Franz is one of the best the top 10 percentile in the NBA for cutting to the rim and most efficient cutters in the league. So I think he's going to be found. I think he's going to be set up. I think all these plays are going to. Franz is only going to get better with Markelle on the floor, and I think with this trajectory, I think Markelle's definitely going to steal a starting spot from either Suggs or Cole sooner than later.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Markelle Fultz is going to make the guys around him a lot better, and I think that's going to be a ton of fun to watch in this young team. Like, sure, he's kind of like a veteran at this point to a lot of these guys, but still very young himself. Like you said, 24. So I think like he's got a ton of potential to improve. I'm curious to see how that jump shot will be eventually. I mean, the thoracic outlet syndrome is no joke. A lot of people talked about it just being yips for a bit, but like that is like a terrible nerve issue that shoots up pain up your back as he shoots it, as he shoots the basketball. So it was like obviously a really hard thing for him to overcome, and to get to the point where he is now is fantastic to see. And I'm a big fan of his. Always going to be in his corner.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's the when he got traded, everyone thought it was just going to be a bad contract, but he showed that he can be better. So he's kind of like, I wouldn't say the sweetheart, but everyone's rooting for everyone in the NBA wants him to do well. Especially what happened. And for the uninitiated, thoracic outlet syndrome is very similar to like what Chris Paul had in the playoffs last year, where it just hurt for him to put his arms above his shoulders. That obviously that makes shooting hard, and that's Chris Paul didn't even shoot it during that playoff series against the Lakers. And it's very similar to that, except for he had it for like a whole year, and it wasn't getting treated right. But I think
really
now
fucked up his development.
Yeah, now on this Magic team, I mean, they've looked very not NBA basketball, at least their offense. And I mean, they're the third worst offense in the league, but with Markelle playing, I think they're going to actually look like a comparable offense, and it's going to at least be clean. Whether they make their shots or not is a different story.
Yeah.
But at least they'll look legit on the floor.
And
I think he adds so much to that, and I'm really excited to see him in further games.
No, that would be cool to see. What do you think so far of first-time head coach Jamal Mosley?
I think it's hard
leading this team correctly with guys like Fultz.
Yeah, so when people look at the coach, a lot of people on these forums, they're saying like he's bad, the Magic are bad, but they didn't hire him to win. They hired him to develop these players, and I think he's done a great job developing all these players. Wendell Carter, he was traded as the Bulls gave up on him. He had potential still, and he's reached that potential. I mean, he's in the last 7 games, 18 points per game, 12 rebounds a game. He's been doing great. Mo Bamba still isn't there, but obviously from Franz, you're seeing improvement in all these guys like Cole and Suggs. That improvement, I think, is a lot attributed to Jamal Mosley, and I think he's doing a great job so far. And I'm not expecting to win, nor should the Magic be. They should be looking for that development in their young players, and I think he's giving that to them.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. Any Magic fan who like wants the team to win games this year is out of their mind, completely out of their mind. It's like, are you there? Are you even a basketball fan? I don't know. Think like everybody wants to see their team have success, but everyone who understands rebuilding, you have to be bad to get good. That's just how it works. Eventually, you hit on a star in the top part of the draft, and like those stars so rarely are anywhere else in the draft. Like sure, we saw Nikola Jokic, now a second round pick, win the MVP. That is a once in a lifetime thing. He's literally the greatest undrafted or the second round player ever, basically. Giannis, how far he fell even just in the first round. It was only halfway through the first round. People talk about like he slipped so far. It's like, well, it was still kind of like a lottery pick.
Yeah, he was a lottery pick.
But you need top picks, and that's what the Magic are doing. They got Jalen Suggs this last draft. That's hopefully a guy who's going to help lead their team, become a star someday. We're seeing it already in Franz Wagner. Cole Anthony's a solid player. Markelle Fultz, ton of potential. We'll see who they add in this next year's draft and the year after. I think these first 3 years are just all about development and see what do you got, who comes out of it. What's your guy? Who are your guys at this point?
Yeah. And they have certainly a lot of talent to play from that pool and work from. So they have done a decent job.
No doubt.
I'm proud of them.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's move on. We'll talk about my team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are surging this year. They are now 5 games above 500, 2.5 games out of the 6th seed, I think it is, or maybe 3.5 at this point. But regardless, they are having a fantastic season comparatively to the last few years. If you're a Timberwolves fan, you know what I'm talking about by few. But we're seeing a resurgence and just like an improvement from a multitude of guys. First of all, D'Angelo Russell, I want to dive in on that because he has gone from literally the worst defender in the entire league to like league average.
Yeah. I'd say a little bit more than league average. What Chris Finch's scheme has had for him is very much like what Brad Stevens did with Isaiah Thomas, but with more potential for defending. So where he hides him off ball, tells him what to do, and team makes all these team. Oh my God, my contact is freaking out. Yeah, that's all right.
Falling out.
So he has like all these little roles. Andy Hoops made this great video about how D'Angelo Russell is how he changed his defense. How he's really the same player. It's not like he got faster or smarter or anything. It's just how Chris Finch has planned him into this defense and how perfect
he's getting him in the lanes. He's getting him to look in the right spots, and we're getting into good transitions. Like the Timberwolves are one of the top teams in causing turnovers in the league or takeaways. So, like, D'Angelo Russell's a big part of that. He's getting into lanes. He's starting the fast break.
No, yeah, and I think also almost as equally what a lot of people would think as hard is how he's changed offensively, and that's not that he's doing something different. It's because he looked at the team and he's like, I'll take a step back. He let Anthony Edwards take up that second scoring option. He doesn't even consider himself as a scoring option when he plays. He's bought fully into facilitating the offense. There's this play. Now, it's a perfect example of this. It's a 3-on-1 fast break. Granted, so it's obviously super easy. Pat Bev pushes it towards him, and he has a wide open layup. But instead of taking the layup, he rewards Jared Vanderbilt for running the floor by giving him the ball so he gets the dunk. And so it's such a leadership move because he's like, you run. I won't take the open layup. I'll get you your shots. Just run the floor with us. And it opens up all these for these young guys. It's such a great veteran move. And he does stuff like that all the time. And that's like his most valuable piece for me. And what I'm watching him actively try to be the leader and try to step up and do what this team needs him to do. And I think that's one of the largest reasons why they're winning.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, his steps up. He's honestly, this is probably the best season of D'Lo's career. A lot of people keep referring like, "Oh, this is Nets D'Lo. He's back," but people should be saying Wolves D'Lo is better than Nets D'Lo. At least for this year, it's a bona fide fact because he was never the defender he was there. He's a way smarter offensive player at this point too. Like he has the patented swipe through move that he does late in the games to get free throws. He's just fucking crazy good at that. Kind of like Harden is. And it's a move that I don't necessarily love to see as a fan, but like, whatever, it's working. He's a smart guy. He's getting the free throws. Like that is contact. Like they're getting their hands in there. Like, I think we've talked enough about D'Lo, but another guy who's improved a ton, which, hard to believe, but Anthony Edwards last year had an amazing rookie year. And this year, a lot of the similar numbers in terms of totals, but way more efficient and overall having a lot more bigger games here and there. He's been a little bit hurt lately, dealing with a knee injury. He missed the last game against the Warriors, but I mean, this guy's like the leader of the team too. Like he was out there barking on the sidelines, telling Cat he's got to get his 40 points for this last game. And Cat was hearing him, and he's talking about it in the post game, whatever. It's like, he's came into here after being picked number 1 overall. And I think, like, thank God we got him. The Timberwolves got him, because, like, who knows if Cat would have wanted to stay after that, because, like, I think getting him was a big addition just in terms of that.
Oh yeah, that's probably the biggest difference from. I mean, we made a video about the improvements Anthony Edwards has made and how he's a superstar in the making. Check that out. It goes into a lot more in depth, but he has that effect. His defense is also huge. We say it over and over again, and I'll never stop saying it, that he's just a bulldog. He just, everything about him, complete effort. He has the mentality, he has the defense, he has the offense. Takes a lot of contested 3-pointers. When they go in, they go in. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times they don't go in is the problem. But
yeah,
he is a ferocious driver. He's just commands respect no matter where he is on the court. So, contested at the 3 means he's getting other guys open. So, he just needs to be smart and make those extra passes. But he does make those sometimes too. He's got a really good 2-man game with Towns sometimes as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, that has been a great resurgence. Obviously, Towns is a huge reason for our improvement this year as well. He's become kind of just a different player than he was before, just really digging into the all-time great shooter part even more. Obviously, he's shooting 40% from 3 on high volume, but 9 rebounds per game this year. I think that's his lowest for his career. And then that's, it's by design. Like, he's out on the perimeter more often, but he's still getting there down low in the post too when the matchup makes sense. Like, he absolutely just bullied the Warriors the other day because they had no one that could do anything about him in the post.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this jump, granted, he's still struggling a lot defensively, especially I think it's more of his drive on defense. Like, he's a great offensive player, and it shows that. And I mean, since January 1st, they're the best offense in the league. Period. And I think, and he's the main scoring option. He's the superstar that's pushing this team, and it's great to see. However, he gets frustrated defensively, and I just he needs to change his mindset on that. I mean, he's the leader. He's the de facto leader of this team by talent. And I think that's not the best example to play. However, he's great. Can't complain. He's doing awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another guy who's improved a ton this year. His minutes have gone down a little bit lately, but Jared Vanderbilt has just filled an awesome role for this team in terms of getting offensive rebounds and adding drive and motivation to the squad. I think, that's a guy who I hope to see some more in the future. I think the reason why you don't see him on the court a lot of the time is because of his limitations on offense. But, even on offense, like I said, he gives you those rebounds, which is super valuable.
Best offensive rebounder in the league, him and Steven Adams. But no, Timberwolves had a hole. It was at that power forward spot. They tried with Taurean Prince. They tried McDaniels, who wasn't ready for it. And he filled that hole, and he did it great. Without him, they're also not this far in. I mean, it's obviously a team effect, but he's filled that hole that they really needed, and it was great to see him. And obviously, he's going to get another contract, and he's going to keep playing for the Timberwolves. I don't think he's the ultimate answer.
He's in contract for 3 more years after this.
That's right. That's right.
No need to think about that. But
awesome.
I think he's a great player for this team. Fills a great role. I don't know if he should be the long-time power forward starter, but who knows? If he keeps improving like this, he could be. Another guy who honestly he's been looking good a lot more lately is Jayden McDaniels. His one big struggle is fouls. He seems to get 4 or 5 fouls with within 20 minutes of game time.
Yeah.
But offensively, he's had a lot of improvements lately. I don't think he's ever going to be like a great 3-point shooter, but he's looking like a solid defender and a guy who can drive it to the rim as well every now and then. So I think he's a solid player for this team moving forward. And hopefully they don't trade him away, but maybe they do for some veteran talent. Otherwise, I think he's a big factor in just seeing how much further this team could go.
Yeah, I mean, Jayden McDaniels started the year off 7.8 points per game, shooting splits of 41, 26, 81. Not that good. But he's came up now recently. I mean, he's slowly progressing. I think they know that he's not on their timeline, but I think they're going to be a little bit patient. Certainly has
I think he's on the timeline. I mean, he's young, but I mean, he's definitely more on the timeline than a guy like Leandro Balmero.
Right. Well, that's like I don't even know if he's on anyone's time, but to finish it, McDaniels now at from January 1st is 10.3 points per game, 49, 35, 79. Those are good shooting splits, and I can live with that. So I think it's whether it's him relaxing in a role or him actually getting better, he's trending in the right way, and I think that's great to see. We were a little bit worried to start off the season, but
he's been looking more confident lately. I think he's definitely going to be an X factor for this team because every now and then he'll give you 16, 18 points with 5 or 6 rebounds. And that's a solid game, from a second-year player like him. And he'll give you good defense, nothing to complain about there. I think he's just got to be more consistent and continue to be who we think he can be.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But yeah, I mean, on the Timberwolves, those were kind of the main guys that I wanted to talk about. Jordan Mclaughlin's playing a lot more lately too. He's a really positive player in terms of the advanced metrics. Love this guy. Solid passer. He's a small guy, but he can get to the rim every now and then as well. I like a guy like Jalen Noel. Want to see him get some more playing time. I think he's just a really solid bucket getter. He's kind of taken the role from Malik Beasley a lot of nights, but Beasley honestly has been a lot better than what people will tell you this year. He's had some really bad games early in this year, but overall, high volume 3-point shooter. He's still shooting 36%. That's, it's not bad. And for high volume, we'll take that because every now and then he is going to have a big game. It just sucks when he has the really poor games, 0 of 12 or 1 of 12. It's you gotta not shoot as much in those nights. Beasley gets carried away.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. Can't argue with what you said, actually.
Yeah, but I don't got anything else to say on the Timberwolves. What about you?
I'm good. I need.
Yeah, we'll wrap that up with a ow. But those are my boys. I will be back at the stadium next week. I forget who they have. They have the Lakers coming up. They also have the Mavericks. So good times there. That is going to be it for us today, though, guys. It's episode 31 of Strictly Ball Business. Please subscribe to us below. Give us a like on the video. You can't really give us a dislike, I think, because they got rid of that bar. But I wish you could, because I don't give a shit. Give me a dislike. But anyways, subscribe to us for Strictly Ball Business. I'm Alec. This is Dalton. And we got other videos along the side they should check out as well. We recently talked about Anthony Edwards' comparison to Michael Jordan. And we've also broken down some of the young cores across the league as well. And right now we're diving into some teams ahead of the playoffs. So stay tuned. We've got more great stuff on the way. And we hope that we see you here.
Hey guys, like and subscribe to the video. If you guys have any ideas for videos, put them down below. If you guys want to talk about it, want us to talk about a trade, put it below. If you want us to talk about anything, put it below. Put anything below.